Think about the last time you noticed someone differently. Your attention sharpened. You started thinking about them when they were not there. This feeling barely needs describing. But here is what nobody thinks about. This exact feeling has been happening for hundreds of thousands of years. Long before dating apps. Long before Valentine's Day. Ancient humans felt this too. And how they acted on it is nothing like you would expect. We imagine ancient humans as too focused on survival for something as complicated as love. That picture is completely wrong. The neuroscience of romantic attraction is not a modern invention. It is one of the oldest systems in the human brain. It was running in full force hundreds of thousands of years before civilization existed. Ancient humans did not just survive. They felt things. Scientists studying people newly in love find something extraordinary. Specific brain regions associated with reward and obsession light up in patterns almost identical to addiction. Critical judgment decreases. Craving increases. Love neurologically looks exactly like a powerful drug response. And this brain system is ancient. Far older than language. Far older than civilization itself. Ancient humans had no restaurants to take someone to. No movies. No text messages. No social media profiles to scroll through at 2 in the morning. So how did prehistoric attraction actually work? What did the process of falling in love actually look like when there was nothing but a fire, a small group, and the darkness surrounding them? Most prehistoric groups had between 50 and 150 people. Everyone knew everyone. There were no strangers within the community. Which means ancient romantic attraction almost always happened between people who had known each other their entire lives. The dating pool was small. The stakes of getting it wrong were enormous. And there was absolutely no leaving. This changes everything compared to modern dating. Today, strangers become lovers. For prehistoric humans, the sequence was largely reversed. You already knew the person completely. You had grown up beside them. You knew their personality, their skills, their family. And then one day something shifted. The person you had always known suddenly became someone you could not stop thinking about. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer communities find that romantic partnerships form through gradual deepening of existing bonds, rather than dramatic sudden falling in love. The lightning bolt moment may be neurologically real, but the relationship built around it was founded on already knowing the other person completely. Ancient love started not with mystery but with deep familiarity. So what triggered the shift? What made one person suddenly notice another differently after years of knowing them? The honest answer is the triggers were remarkably similar to what still works today. Because the brain doing the triggering is essentially the same brain. Evolution did not redesign the attraction system. It just changed the environment the system was operating inside. Physical health was a primary signal. In an environment where illness could be fatal, signs of vitality were powerful attractors. Clear skin, symmetrical features, physical strength, energetic movement, all markers of genetic health that the brain is still wired to notice today. We respond to these signals without any conscious awareness of what we are actually responding to. But appearance was only one part. In small communities where survival required cooperation, social qualities mattered equally. A generous person was attractive. A skilled hunter or gatherer was attractive. A calm, decisive, reliable person was attractive. These qualities were not just appealing, they were survival relevant. The brain registered them as the most important signals available. Humor was likely a significant attractor even in prehistoric times. This sounds surprising, but the reasoning is solid. Humor requires quick thinking, social awareness, and the ability to read another person's reactions. A person who could make others laugh was demonstrating intelligence and social skill simultaneously. Being funny may have been one of the earliest ways of displaying mental fitness. Evidence of musical instruments exists from at least 40,000 years ago. Communal singing and rhythmic movement were almost certainly part of ancient human social life long before civilization. And the connection between music, rhythm, and romantic bonding is something the human brain is deeply wired for. The campfire gathering was likely where most prehistoric attraction actually happened. Studies on modern humans find that shared rhythmic experience, dancing together, moving in synchrony, creates measurable feelings of closeness. This happens neurologically. Synchronized movement triggers oxytocin, the same bonding hormone involved in love and attachment. The ancient campfire was not just practical. It was the original first date, and it worked on the nervous system powerfully. Imagine it. Fire at the center. Everyone gathered as darkness falls. Rhythmic sounds and movement. The specific person you have been noticing sitting across from you. In the flickering warmth, in the shared rhythm, this is likely where prehistoric love actually happened. Not through a carefully constructed date, through shared experience, through closeness, through firelight doing ancient things to the human nervous system. Ancient humans had courtship behaviors, specific actions to signal romantic interest. And here is what makes this remarkable. Many of these behaviors appear universal across cultures separated by thousands of miles and years, which strongly suggests they are not cultural inventions. They are biological ones, deeply wired into human behavior regardless of where or when that human happened to be born. Eye contact is one of the most powerful universal signals. In the animal kingdom, sustained eye contact signals dominance or threat. But between two humans who are not in conflict, it creates something entirely different. Deep connection and recognition unlike almost any other experience. Studies show mutual gazing triggers measurable physiological changes in both people. Ancient humans used this without needing studies to explain it. Grooming is another universal courtship behavior with deep biological roots. Primates groom each other as primary social bonding. In humans, this became fixing someone's hair, adjusting something on their clothing, small physical contacts disguised as practical gestures. These are permission tests, ways of establishing physical closeness under socially acceptable cover. They worked then. They still work now at every gathering happening anywhere tonight. Gift-giving appears to have ancient romantic roots. Archaeological evidence shows certain objects, rare shells, unusual stones, pigments, were transported enormous distances far beyond practical necessity. Some researchers interpret this as prehistoric gift-giving, including romantic gift-giving. Bringing someone something rare and beautiful, something requiring real effort, is a behavioral signal of investment and affection that predates civilization by a very long time. Jealousy existed in prehistoric communities in a form considerably more direct and dangerous than modern jealousy. In a small group with limited partners, competition was real. Evidence from ancient skeletal remains shows injury patterns consistent with interpersonal conflict, particularly injuries to hands and faces. Jealousy is not a modern complication. It is an ancient territorial instinct. Only civilization modified the consequences of acting on it. How did ancient humans handle rejection? This is fascinating because the social consequences were genuinely significant. You could not delete the person or avoid their neighborhood. The person who rejected you would be sitting around the same fire tomorrow, and the next day, and every day after that. In a 50-person community with no way to leave, rejection was one of the most socially complex experiences possible. This reality shaped how attraction was expressed. The stakes of obvious rejection in a small community were high enough that romantic interest was likely signaled carefully and ambiguously, through small escalating signals that could be quietly withdrawn if the other person did not respond. No dramatic declaration. No formal moment of risk. Just small moves, each one deniable, each one watching for a response. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups note that romantic partnerships develop through gradual observable behaviors, spending more time together, sitting closer at communal events, sharing food, small reciprocal touches. The whole community can see it happening. But neither person ever has to explicitly state their interest until the relationship is already substantially established through a long, careful series of mutually accepted signals. This gradual approach gave both people plausible deniability while attraction developed. Neither had to commit until the relationship was already real. This might sound overly cautious by modern standards. But in a community of 50 people with zero possibility of avoiding someone you had dramatically failed to impress, it was a remarkably intelligent social strategy. Ancient humans were not primitive. They were just working with different constraints. Were ancient humans naturally monogamous? The honest answer is complicated. Human biology contains signals pointing in multiple directions. Human males are not dramatically larger than females. Large size differences in primates correlate with intense mate competition, suggesting less exclusive partnerships. But humans do form profound long-term pair bonds and invest heavily in offspring together. Both signals exist simultaneously in the same species. The most widely accepted view among anthropologists is that prehistoric humans practiced something closer to serial monogamy with variation, significant pair bonds that could be long-lasting, within communities maintaining broader social ties. The idea that one single natural relationship structure existed universally in prehistoric times is almost certainly too simple. Ancient humans were complicated. Humans have always been more complicated than the simple stories suggest. Was prehistoric love as emotionally intense as what modern people experience? The neurological evidence says yes. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, norepinephrine, these are ancient systems. They did not evolve recently. They evolved because forming strong emotional bonds with specific partners produced real survival advantages. The consuming intensity of romantic feeling is a feature of the system, not a modern cultural addition to something that used to be simpler. Ancient cave art offers moving evidence of deeply felt human connection. Alongside animal paintings, researchers have found paired handprints, two people pressing their hands against the same stone wall and outlining them together. Some researchers interpret certain paired handprints as evidence of romantic connection. Two people leaving a permanent mark of their presence together in a place that clearly mattered to them. We cannot know for certain, but the image stays with you. Several ancient burial sites contain pairs of individuals buried together, side by side, bodies positioned facing each other or touching. These paired burials suggest the relationship between these two people was significant enough that survivors ensured they were not separated even in death. The intentionality of these burials speaks to an emotional world far richer than the survival-only prehistoric stereotype ever allows for. One of the most famous examples is a pair of skeletons from approximately 5,000 years ago found in northern Italy, the lovers of Valdero. Two individuals facing each other, arms positioned as if embracing, buried together in that position. 5,000 years later, they were found exactly as placed, still face to face, still together. Someone arranged this with care. Someone wanted them to remain together. Modern culture treats romantic love as an achievement of civilization, something refined and elevated, made possible by art and poetry and all the things separating us from primitive ancestors. But the neuroscience and archaeology tell a completely different story. Romantic love is not a product of civilization. Civilization is partly a product of it. Love did not come after humans became human. Love helped make us human. The specific rituals changed across cultures and centuries. Flowers, poems, rings, ceremonies. These are cultural expressions of an underlying biological reality. But the underlying experience, the sharpened attention, the craving, the obsessive thinking, the physical symptoms of attraction, the specific desire to be chosen by this one particular person, this has been happening in human brains for hundreds of thousands of years in essentially the same way. Somewhere in human prehistory, perhaps 50,000 years ago, perhaps 200,000, two people sat beside a fire and one became aware that something had shifted, that the person across the fire was different from everyone else, that their absence would be noticed, that being chosen by them specifically would matter in a way that being chosen by anyone else simply would not. Nothing has changed about that moment since. They had no language to describe this precisely. No poems, no songs, no stories that had codified what was happening. But the feeling itself was exactly the same feeling people describe today in every language on Earth. The same dopamine, the same racing thoughts, the same specific hunger for one particular person's presence, the same hope, the same terrifying vulnerability, the same possibility of rejection that made everything feel very high stakes. Modern neuroscientists have a name for early romantic love: limerence, a state of intense attraction characterized by obsessive thinking, emotional dependence on the other person's responses, and powerful motivation to secure the relationship. Every culture on Earth has words for this state. Every culture has art describing it. Because it is not cultural. It is biological. It happened around prehistoric fires the same way it happens in modern cities tonight. The fire between them was real. The darkness was real. The small sleeping group nearby was real. And across that fire something ancient and completely recognizable was happening. Two people living the oldest story the human species knows how to tell, for the very first time. Having no idea that hundreds of thousands of years later people would still be living the exact same story and still not fully understanding why. Next time you feel it, next time your attention quietly fixes on one particular person in a way different from everyone else, you are experiencing something genuinely ancient. Something that ran in the brains of people who painted animals on cave walls by torchlight. Something that drove people to carry beautiful shells hundreds of miles to give to someone they wanted to impress. It is old. It is human. It is unchanged. It caused two people to be buried face to face 5,000 years ago, so they would not spend eternity apart. It caused prehistoric hands to press against cave walls side by side, leaving marks that lasted longer than the people who made them. Love did not need civilization to exist. It existed long before civilization did. And when civilization finally arrived, love was already very old and very practiced. The setting was unrecognizable. The world around them was dangerous and dark and completely unlike anything we know. But the thing happening inside them, in their brains, in their chests, in the way they looked across a fire at a specific face and felt something shift, that part has not changed at all. Not slightly, not partially, not in any meaningful way. It never needed to. It already worked perfectly. So how did ancient humans fall in love? They noticed someone, then could not stop noticing them. They moved closer through small careful signals. They gave rare and beautiful things to people they wanted to impress. They felt the hope and terror of wanting to be chosen. They formed bonds deep enough that people who loved them honored those bonds even after death. The world was different. The feeling was identical. And somewhere tonight, in a city full of screens and noise and modern everything, someone is sitting beside someone else and something is shifting slightly inside them. Their attention is sharpening. They are starting to notice small details. They are going to think about this person later when they are alone. 300,000 years of human history and the feeling works exactly the same way it always did. Around every fire, in every darkness, in every human chest that ever learned to want someone specific.